Trade rumors are escalating right now for the Cleveland Cavaliers. After expressing interest in Cam Johnson early on in the summer, these discussions, NBA analysts are pushing once again for this Cleveland Cavaliers team, and the asking price has been revealed from the Brooklyn Nets for one of these deals to actually go down. So we'll discuss what decisions Koby Altman has to make, because we all know the Cavs are in a position to make a deep playoff run this year. They'll have to really build out the roster around their star guys, including Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and everyone in between. So the right moves, the right pieces have to be in place, and Cam Johnson has been a guy that Cavs fans have long coveted. So we'll break down what these trade reports, discussions are saying, what the analysts are pushing, and frankly, what makes sense for this Cleveland Cavaliers team to really be pursuing ahead of this year's sort of season trade deadline, while we can improve the roster for the Cavs team before they make that playoff push. But before we dive into any of that, folks, again, if you're a part of the 88% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on regarding this Cleveland Cavaliers team, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything going on with this Cleveland Cavaliers stuff. Billy and I are making daily videos, so if you want to stay up to date, hit that subscribe button. It means the world to us. But let's dive into the discussions. Let's dive into what's been going on, because there's been some chatter, some buzz about a Cavs-Nets trade involving Cam Johnson for a little while now. And now NBA analysts are pushing for this once again to get the perfect fit around Donovan Mitchell. Essentially, this is all sparked and going back to reports from the summer that the Cavs are in love with Cam Johnson. If he's available from the Brooklyn Nets, the Cavs will be involved in those conversations. There's no doubt about that. The question becomes, do they have the pieces to satisfy what the Brooklyn Nets want in return for Cam? So this is coming from Chris Fedor. This is expressed over the course of the offseason, and obviously no trade ended up going down for Cam Johnson, even though he's a player that is a very intriguing piece, very interesting guy that's out there, out there in the world. So 13 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists for Cam Johnson, shot 39% from the three-point line, and this is on a brutal Brooklyn Nets team for a guy that's more of an elite 3-and-D player. So essentially, he's out there trying to collect, those driving kicks, knocking down those shots, and the guy shoots 46% on corner threes. So you can imagine Donovan Mitchell, you can imagine Darius Garland, heck, even in moments if Evan Mobley gets some, obviously won't be off the drives or slashes, but it's in that mid-post area, he's able to swing the basketball and be able to kick that ball out to Cam Johnson, who is an elite 3-point shooter, 6'8", has some size. That would be a very, very nice asset for the Cleveland Cavaliers to have out there on the wing. However, like any trade, like anything that goes down, you have to give something up to get something good. And frankly, the asking price for Cam Johnson right now is very high. It's essentially Brian Lewis of the New York Post recently reported that the Nets have high demands in return for the 28-year-old, but what could those demands be? It's unlikely Brooklyn is asking for a mere first-round pick in negotiations. That figure is likely doubled or tripled, as the franchise who acquires Johnson will certainly be in the upper echelon of competitiveness. That means the pick the Nets get will will be in the back end of the first round, forcing whoever wants Johnson to give up more than just one. And as we all know, the Brooklyn Nets are in a rebuilding situation right now. The team is struggling. They made a bunch of moves to bring in draft capital to do these types of things. They got their own picks back from the Houston Rockets and those deals that are going down the offseason. So frankly, the Brooklyn Nets are looking for those types of assets. They're looking for those types of pieces to really build for the future, to get things going out there on that front. And dealing with Cam Johnson, using him as a trade chip does make sense for their team in terms of their vision, in terms of what they're trying to execute in their roster rebuilding. So basically, that's where this sort of rumor, this is where this discussion starts to really pick back up regarding the Cleveland Cavaliers and Cam Johnson. Obviously, an upper echelon team in the East. I can use more 3-and-D firepower, and this is the proposed trade that's been swirling around Cavaliers, Reddit, Twitter, all these different places, as the Brooklyn Nets will be receiving Caris LeVert, obviously a former Brooklyn Net, Max Strus, and a first-round pick from the Cleveland Cavaliers for Cam Johnson, as well as Zaire Williams. That's basically the framework of a deal that's being talked about amongst Cavs fans, Nets fans right now in terms of what these rumors are discussing. And frankly, I don't know if I'm sold on this, because the Cavs, again, are giving up a first-round pick, which is another draft asset. And yes, Cam Johnson's awesome. We discussed that the whole start of the video. But really, in a win-now team, I know people are very high on Caris LeVert in certain games and then very low on Caris LeVert after certain games. And that's how it goes. But people be willing to deal away just with the inconsistency of Caris LeVert for a potential deal. But adding in Max Strus to this deal, who I know was brought into the Cavs some people were disappointed. It feels like the jury's still out in terms of whether or not he's worth that contract, but has been a valuable piece, a starter for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Adding him into the mix, here's LeVert and a first, just to really get that upgrade for Cam Johnson there and Zaire Williams in that trade. That's going to be tough. I mean, we can take a look at the stats specifically for these potential deals. Again, Cam Johnson's only 13 points per game. Zaire Williams is also an interesting piece. I don't know if the Nets would be super eager to get rid of him. 23 years old, brought from the Memphis Grizzlies. An interesting piece himself, but coming back to the Cavs, obviously this framework and stuff is more centered around Cam Johnson, but Max Strus himself is, yes, he's smaller. He's 3 inches shorter. Averages a little bit less points per game, is a little bit less efficient from the three-point. I know people get frustrated with his consistency firing up the three-point ball, at times over the course of the last season, but still 5 rebounds per game, despite being a little bit smaller. Better passer than Cam Johnson, and yes, Cam Johnson, the big jump, the big plus is, his long, wiry sort of mobility out there on the defensive end, but Strus, similar age, and is a bulldog out there, can be a bulldog out there on the defensive end. No one would call him like the most elite defender in the NBA by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely a guy that is capable on that end of the floor. So, having to add him to this deal is a massive blow to the Cleveland Cavaliers if they were to make that trade again for a win now move. And then you're also giving up Caris LeVert, who again, I understand the jump shot, especially inconsistent, a bit more of a chucker than these types of guys out there on the floor, but you're losing 14 points per game, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, and frankly, off the bench, a guy that is a serious sort of, main cog out there in what the Cleveland Cavaliers are able to do off the bench for their team. So having to give up both of those guys who are assets for the Cavs right now, it's not like they're just empty contracts. On top of it, having to deal away a first-round pick has me very skeptical about whether or not this is the perfect move. Again, Cam Johnson's really good. It makes sense why the Cavs are interested in him. In a low season for the Nets, he can have his value more maximized with the Cleveland Cavaliers, being able to get shots from Darius Garland, from Donovan Mitchell, from all these folks out there that unlock these types of players like Cam Johnson, has the height, has more efficiency, has that type of stuff. And yes, if you want to win a championship, if you want to, take this team in the Cavs, that's first, second round guaranteed in the playoffs to, hey, conference finals, heck, even a championship. These sometimes are the risks you have to take to improve your roster. And when you have Garland, when you have Donovan Mitchell, you want that sort of natural 3. Again, Okoro, everyone's hoping to sort of develop and become that guy, especially after receiving his contract this offseason. But Strus is more of a 2 rather than a 3, but has always played, a little bit up a size, just given his strength and stockiness out there on the wing. But Cam Johnson's more of that natural fit, probably a guy that would just seamlessly integrate well into the system. And then, again, you do have guys like Okoro, you have guys like Merrill that can come in and step up, next man up mentality. If you're, taking those 2 quarters for a 50 cents piece, bringing in Cam Johnson, but still it's a lot, especially giving up that first round pick. Zaire Williams, goodness gracious, but Zaire Williams is an interesting prospect as well. Did fall, wasn't that integral piece for the Memphis Grizzlies. They trade him away this season, or let him walk. So 36% on corner threes for him, 30% from the 3-point line. I don't know. I'm not sold on this move if I'm a Cleveland Cavaliers sort of fan leading into this one. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about the Cavs. What would you like to give up to acquire Cam Johnson? Do you think he'd be that perfect fit on this Cavs team? Let me know in the comment section down below. But you guys have been listening as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.